Host of the Reseller Show, and it's good to be my freshman year. I'm so happy. I'm so excited that I've picked this college. I think I made a right choice. What I want to talk about in my show is reselling. So anything from eBay stores to garage sales to auctions and everything in between. Um, what this show is going to be based on is reselling, and I'm going to be bringing special guests on and talk about the community of reselling that is on YouTube. And what we have going on YouTube is a great community built with a bunch of friends and people. Um, so yeah, that'll be it. I'm gonna talk a little bit about myself right now. I am Brandon Zier. I am a freshman here at Simpson College, and I wanted to welcome everyone to the 2021-2022 school year. It's gonna be a great year. Um, I got into reselling when I was about 9 years old. I remember going to different flea markets and stuff and setting up the booths with my parents and whatnot. And I remember walking to all the different booths, and it's fun to look for cheap things and sell high. That's how I was able to, afford some of the stuff that I buy today. I never took a retail job. I never worked in a restaurant. I've never worked at a gas station. I've been doing reselling since I was 9 years old and all through junior high and high school. Um, it's been a fun experience so far, and I think it's not really a full-time job unless if you want to make it that. If you are really good at doing eBay and all these listings and stuff, and you build a group of people that keep buying from you on eBay, I'm pretty sure that you could probably make it as a full-time job. But for me right now, it is a side job. I don't really, I make decent money, but it's not like supporting a full-time job. I wouldn't be able to like afford an apartment, monthly rate and whatnot. So there is that. I will be bringing a special guest on today. His name is Johnny. He's got a YouTube channel called Kajun Reseller. I've known him for about 2 years now, close to 2 years. And he has a lot of fun things on his YouTube channel, so make sure you go check that out. But like I said, I am a part-time reseller. I do it on the side. A lot of people have seen in Barker Hall that I have a sign up on my door saying Heartland Picker. Go check out my channel. That is my YouTube channel, Heartland Picker. But I go to plenty of auctions and garage sales and yard sales and estate sales and every kind of thing you can think of, even thrift stores. I've been pretty much everywhere. The things I find at estate sales and garage sales and all that is just crazy. It's like one of the craziest things and one of the best things I like to do about reselling. One of the things that I like the most about reselling is trying to find those good deals. I remember once going into a thrift store, and what I specialize in is vintage jewelry. So I remember going to the jewelry counter, and there was this little box of rings that they had in the little display case that they had. And I remember going up there and asking, okay, how much is this, like little box of rings? And they said it was $3 a piece. And I was like, well, okay. And I asked them, you mind if I take a look at them? No. And then they were like, of course not. We go ahead and look at them. And so I remember when he grabbed the box of rings out and brought it out onto the counter for me, I couldn't believe my eyes how many gold rings were in this one little box. And I bought the whole box because, of course, it had some costume rings. And, of course, there was some really good rings in there. And I remember when I went to go sell the rings after I bought them, I think, if I remember right, I think the price was like $655 for all the rings that I bought. That's how much I sold them for. And I remember when I bought them, they were $3 a ring. And there was probably like, I think 6 or 7 rings in there. So roughly about $18, $21-ish that I spent. And I made $655 off of it. So that was a really good steal. But yeah, if you have any questions on reselling, or if there's any questions you want me to talk about the reselling community, you can go to my Instagram page, the Reseller Show _KSTM, and you can DM me there, and I can answer questions. If I'm live, I can answer questions through the DMs. So I'm going to bring in our guest here. Let me just fix this. Perfect. And we are going to have our guest.
Hello?
Hey, Johnny, how's it going?
It's going great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. So why don't you talk about who you are and what you do on your YouTube channel?
Well, my name is Johnny, but I go by Kajun ReSeller on YouTube. I have several channels, but usually I have my morning show Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. And what we mainly do is Q&A, more of like question and answers for people who are either just starting off or need to know how to get started doing eBay or reselling on any platform. And I actually was born and raised in Louisiana, but now I live in Massachusetts for the last 2 years, and that's all I've been doing, and I love it. It's like being in business for yourself. You create what you want. Hours business is just an actual a great thing to do, pastime, and you basically create your own hours. I love it.
Yeah, that's the thing I like about reselling too, is you can create your own hours. So what platforms do you sell on, and why are they most useful to you?
Well, my main platform is eBay, but I also do sell on Mercari, Etsy, Bonanza, and I also have 2 antique booths. And the reason I chose those is because when I go sourcing, depending on what I find, that way I'm not limited to just certain things. I do tend to buy only new, unopened boxed items. But if I find something that's worth, like buy low as I can to flip for as much money as I can in a profit, determines where I put it. For example, if it's something that's older but bigger and I don't want to ship it, I usually do that and put those in my antique booths.
Well, that's smart of you.
Yeah.
So what kind of antiques do you collect? Because I know I'm a big antique collector and I do a lot of vintage jewelry. What about you?
Well, I tend to go towards glassware, which is more of my expertise in Fenton. But I also do antique and vintage jewelry. Anything that has to do with things that maybe when I was a kid growing up, remembering things from my grandmother's house, my great-grandmother's house, and then I'm starting to see them in places where I go thrifting. That's when I tend to pick them up because I know those would sell, especially when I source it and then I do the comps to see what they're kind of going for. The going price, that's when I tend to pick them up, depending on how much I can get them as low as I can, but be able to have a big profit in it.
Yeah. And you also, if I remember right, you also sew quilts, right?
Yes, I actually started that about 6 years ago, maybe more. And what I do is I create a quilt that I never do twice. I started from designing it to sewing it and then putting it on the machine and actually hand quilting the actual quilt once it's going to finish in the finished product.
Well, that's pretty cool.
And that I usually put in my Etsy platform.
There you go. So what, when you go to a thrift store or an antique shop, what is your favorite category to shop for? What do you tend to go to the most?
Fenton. I look for anything different with Fenton glassware or Mardi Gras glass, or they may know it as carnival glass, which looks like the purple, green, and golds. They got them in reds and gold and red.
It's kind of like that rainbow color, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I tend to lean more towards Pyrex, especially for glassware, a bunch of Pyrex. And then I like to go to the kitchen department, and obviously you got to get that vintage Tupperware because that stuff is expensive.
Yes, and I just actually started getting into that because I'm just now starting to see a lot of it where I go sourcing.
Yeah. Yeah, I know garage sales here, the prices can vary. Most garage sales around here are pretty cheap, unless if it's in a big, rich, expensive house. Normally, the prices are kind of ridiculous because they want like the price they paid for it. So I think that's a little crazy, but
when I go to estate sales, I tend to stay towards a bundle. It just so happens that if you get into the knowing the companies and the people who run the companies and estate sales, you tend to be able to work with them more where you can do a bundle deal. And when I say that, meaning make a pile and then start making a deal at the end. Because a lot of times you can find a lot of little things and that adds up. But a lot of times they just want to get rid of it. Now, not every estate sale is the same, but I do tend to find the ones that I go to, I get to know the person who's running it. Then I get to know by signing up for their email services when they're having another estate sale, because then that's when I know I can make a deal by bundling it and then getting it for a cheaper price.
Yeah. Yeah, I like doing bundles too. It's just sometimes those people just kind of don't want to bundle. You know, their prices are firm. You know, they want what they have it marked, and you can't really do deals with them sometimes.
Well, one of the things I've learned when going to estate sales, and I've been doing it for quite a while, one of the things I have to say is sometimes you'll go to an estate sale, depending on the company, where they have these prices marked, and it's because they're looking it up on eBay, or they'll have a little page printed out saying this is what it's selling for on eBay.
Yeah.
One of the things that I tell a lot of the tips that I tell a lot of my viewers on my YouTube channel is don't go by what is listed. Remembering that if somebody's asking for a certain price, that's not what they're going to get it for, because you want to go to what's sold within the last 90 days on the app, and you want to make sure you see what they're selling for.
Yeah.
Now, there may be some people who, when they're doing this, oh, that's what eBay's asking. No, that's not what they're asking. That's what everybody who's selling is what they're asking for. So that's not what you want to look for. You want to look for what's sold. That way you can compare it to how many sold in the last 90 days. And then, yes, I do look at what's listed because I want to see how many are listed and compare, is there more listed than sold, or is there more sold than listed? And that way I'll determine if I'll pick it up at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a very good way to look up items, is through eBay sold listings. That way you can compare the prices and see what it's going for at the garage sale, what they're asking, and what it's going for actually to be sold.
Right. And one of the things I always tell my viewers, don't be afraid to use your app on the phone, because if you buy something thinking, and again, you may have done this for quite a while, and you see something that you've never seen before, I would definitely recommend looking it up. Now, if it's something you've sourced over and over and over, and you know that it's a good flip for ROI in what you're buying it for, then yes, I can understand not checking out the pricing. But again, I still check everything, even though I've been doing this for over 2 years now. I still look at what's sold. I'm not afraid to look it up and see, because I want to make sure, is it something worth me buying? Is it worth me having a good flip on it? Because my goal is to have at least double or triple the money of what I'm paying for it.
Yeah. And it's a good thing to use your phone so you can check like the barcodes and things on items, except when I think when did the barcodes come out, like the 80s, I think?
Something like that, but again, you still can look it up by two other ways. On the app, there's three ways you can look up an item. If you have a barcode, that is the best way. Now, remembering that back when they just started this maybe a year and a half ago, maybe a little over a year, where they had making you add the barcode if it has one. And usually when you go to list something, it'll tell you it's not applicable because it may be an item that never had a barcode, which I've come across a lot of times. So what you want to do is, in the app itself, on the when you go to use your camera, you can actually take a picture of it, and it'll see if it's available by the picture. Not all the time you'll get the correct picture, of course. But another thing is you can actually type in the main keywords of that item, whether it's the brand name, whether it's the item, or it could be anything from it's from 1975. You can even put a year in it, and 9 times out of 10 that item will come up for you, but then you have to search and see exactly. And one of the things I always recommend in my viewers, check to make sure it's exactly what you have in your hand, because a lot of times there may be variations of it, so you want to make sure if you're comping it, you want to make sure it's exactly what you have, what you're looking at in your hand, because that could be a big mistake if you don't.
Yeah, and also to add on that, make sure you also put in, when you're on the eBay side and you want to check your sold prices, make sure if your item is sealed, make sure you click on the new button. You do not want to see the sold used prices, because that will be a difference.
Exactly. That makes a big difference, because You may have something that even, for example, it may be a limited edition. It may have only come out maybe through any type of special convention. You want to make sure if that's on there, you want to put those keywords in there because somebody may have it as a used item or something that was not from a convention, and you want to make sure it's exactly what it is. So that's those keywords that are very important when you're typing it in.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have an eBay store. Have you had any problems with your eBay store, or have the people that bought in from you been pretty much nice? I'm curious on like the customer feedback.
Well, my customer feedback, one of the things I tend to do is when I'm listing and selling and I have a sale, like just for example, I had somebody who purchased something and it reached out to me. One of the biggest things that some people I find by watching other YouTube content creators is that you need to respond to your customers' emails through eBay. One of the things that I noticed that if I go out my way, I will treat my customers the way I want to be treated. So if somebody sends me a question about an item, I will reply back to them as soon as I can. Now, if it's after my hours, and again, you set your own hours, but the minute I go to bed and my phones are downstairs, I go upstairs, I don't reply to anything until I wake up in the morning. And usually I'm up about 2:30, 3 o'clock to where I don't reply to personal emails, but I do reply to things on eBay. So I'll reply back. For example, I had somebody who sent me a message asking if I can have this out to them the next day. They needed it by Friday. They're having some kind of place where they're going, and they needed to get the item because they want to get it signed by that person. It just so happened I had it in my eBay store. So, of course, I did. But you want to make sure you go out of your way because those little customer comments and feedbacks can hurt you if you don't. So for me, I have not had any problems. I've had a few where in the last 2 years, I'm almost at 2.5 now that I've been doing eBay, I've had 2 complaints. When I say complaints, meaning somebody got something and it didn't work. So I went out of my way and sent the person some extra batteries. That again didn't work, but yet he didn't want to have a refund. So I still went out of my way as much as I could. So the biggest thing is customer service is very important because that can make or break you, where that customer can come back and buy from you again if you give them that feedback to where they're going to be able to give you you give them the great service. You do go out of your way, that little extra mile. You just never know if they're going to need another gift or some event comes up and they need something and you have it in your store. They'll come back to you. And then they'll spread the word because remember, word of mouth is the biggest advertisement you can have in any business.
Oh, yeah. And it's just like on, especially customer service on YouTube. I know some people that are listening might not understand what I mean by that, but we have a little auction community or a little reseller community. It's not really little, I guess you could say, but it's pretty big, honestly. But it's always those customers that when I sell things on YouTube and they love my items, they will always come back and they will always support me. And it might be because I'm like the youngest reseller on the community. They still want to, support me and, help me through college and whatnot. And since they love my items, they love to support me and buy the items because I have good quality items. But I also sell on Mercari, and I've actually had that happen once where there was a customer and again, description is key. You always want to describe your items in the description as best as possible. And I remember when I wrote this description, I probably should have said the bracelet was small, but I did have one instance where there was a bracelet, even though in the pictures I had the ruler next to the bracelet, and it was a very thin gold bracelet, very, very thin. And I said it was a small gold bracelet in the description, but I never said it was like dainty or it was, like very, very small. And when the customer got it, they responded back and they didn't even send us a message. They just put their feedback in and gave us, I think, a 3-star, I think it was, on Mercari, and said that the bracelet was too small. Well, I guess that could go either way because, yeah, I didn't say it was tiny or it was dainty in the description, but yet also I did post a picture of it in the images to show right next to a ruler how small it was.
Right.
And so that kind of threw me for a loop there.
But one of the things I've learned with descriptions, no matter what platform you're selling on, the key words you want to be able to not only describe it, almost like painting a picture to the customer. when they're looking at something, and I want to say statistics says like maybe 90 to 95% do not read the descriptions, but you will have those that will. Now, for me, that's the first thing I go to. I want to see the description about that item. But the biggest thing is you need to make sure you have all keywords that you can use. And again, they do give you only so many characters in the title, but that's why you can also have so many keywords in your description box. But making sure you check every box off that pertains to the item you have that you're listing to sell. What's important too is if you have, for example, something that may be a little bit of a scratch, or if it's a brand new item and the box may have a little shelf wear, you want to make sure you point those out in your pictures, but in your description, you want to make sure you do state, please see photos of, and then give a small description. It may have like a small dent on the corner, may have a little bend in the corner, anything that may make sure to make them look at those pictures to see, okay, I see what it is. I still want it. Or that won't matter. I'll still take it. Those are the biggest important things when listing anything. Everything that you can describe to that is like you're the eyes for your customer. So it's very important that you make sure that any little detail you think would be important, because think of it this way, if you're the customer and you're looking at it, would you buy it? With the descriptions you wrote. You want to make sure you have everything that you can, because you're the eyes to that product, to that customer. So you want to make sure you have it written down in everything you can, so that way you don't miss anything.
Yeah. And, really, if you think about it, description is key. You want to make sure you describe your items well, because you don't want the negative feedback, and no one wants negative feedback on their pages or their stores or whatnot.
Correct.
So, now let's talk a little bit about shipping here. A lot of people sometimes get confused on, like the shipping amounts and, how to ship. So what are some of your methods you do with shipping wise, and like how or what platforms or what websites, I guess, do you use for shipping labels if you do use them?
All right, when it comes to eBay or any platform I sell on, I automatically go through their website. Now, eBay, I go directly through eBay. But what I do is, if, for example, when I'm doing an online auction, and I do those on my channel, I will take and use Pirate Ship. Now, there is like Shippo and other programs you can use, but for me, I use the programs that I can easily get the best shipping price for my customers. Now, what I do is when I'm listing something, and this is very important when you're listing, because you got to remember, if you're on the East Coast and you're shipping something to somebody on the West Coast, that's going to be much more in cost than you sending somebody something on the East Coast where you're at. So what I do is on all my listings, I will use calculated shipping, and this is the important part. When you're actually listing your items, you want to make sure, for me, I will measure the item that I'm listing, and I will add it, each length, width, and height, I will add 2 extra inches to it, because not only am I adding the product, but I'm also making sure I'm using some type of safety like bubble wrap or filler paper, anything that's going to make that higher in thickness, whether it's your height, width, or length. And then I make sure I know what box I'm going to use, because that's important. When you have an item, you want to make sure you have a box that's going to fit that product comfortably enough to where you won't have to worry about having the wrong size box. Because if you oversize the box, then you'll have to add more filler paper or anything that'll make that space filled. So you want to go as small as you can, but making sure that the item in your box is not shakeable, or like I call it, a floating item in a box.
Yeah.
So what's important is that you get not only the right dimensions, but you also want to make sure you have the right weight. So if I'm making something that's 4 ounces, I'll put it on the scale and it tells me 4 ounces. Well, because I know I got my shipping, my packing material that's going to go with that, I need to add that to my listing. Because when you go to ship it, you're going to need to put the correct measurements in to get the right shipping. I offer 4 different types of methods of shipping on every item that I list. Because, for example, in this one case I had this week where somebody needed it overnight by Friday. So I actually had an express link available, but anything they choose, when they go to buy something from me, it's automatically calculated shipping. Now, there are some people who do free shipping. There are some people who do a flat rate. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't recommend that when you're first starting out because that can mess you up in your profits. So I refer to anyone who's starting out, make sure you use calculated shipping and making sure you measure the items and make sure you have the appropriate box to ship it in. Remembering that if you're using anything over 15 ounces, it automatically has to be priority. So you want to make sure you have the correct priority boxes. Now with that, you can get those free through your USPS website to get your free shipping supplies there. But if you have things that are not priority and less than that as far as first class is concerned, then of course you would get whatever box you would need, whether it be you can get your shipping supplies through eBay with a coupon if you have a certain store level. And what's good about that is that you take that money for it's free, you get all your shipping supplies for free. It doesn't cost you anything extra. It's just free money they're giving you because that actually offsets the cost of your fees for your monthly store that you have on, especially on eBay.
Yeah. And
now, and then when I'm doing the auctions, I will do the same thing, and I'll do calculated shipping. But I try to save the best shipping as possible by combining the items, giving them one best price, and that way whatever I have to pay is what my customers pay, nothing more.
Yeah. And for me, the one thing I don't like to ship is glassware. And I know that you have to pack bubble wrap around the glassware as much as possible because you don't want to ship it with little to none because you never know that, during transition it could break. And if you have it on eBay and you say perfect condition and it arrives broken, you possibly could get a bad feedback from it. So
right, and one of the suggestions I tell anybody who wants to do that, and I do sell and ship glassware, don't get me wrong, but I take it may be a little extra step, but I've recommended things like, you can get the pool noodles.
Yeah.
You can use those for shipping for protections around the rim of a glass or some kind of glassware you're shipping, but also take a box and float it in another box. That way it's not touching the sides of the original box that you're shipping it in. And that way you'll have a better chance of it getting there shipped safely like you listed it. That's one of the things I also tell people when you're doing, especially for me, I do a lot of old antique Christmas ornaments. But what I do is I not only take and do the bubble wrap on the inside the box, but I also wrap and bubble wrap the outside of the box as well. But I also float it in a box to where it's not touching any of the sides of that box I'm shipping it in. And so far, knock on wood, I've never had a complaint. I've always had compliments and great feedback saying that the box and the item has arrived as the way it was listed. And that's what you want to do.
Yeah. Now, one of the questions I'm always going to ask my guests here, how has the COVID-19 pandemic affected reselling, or has it not?
For me, I have to say at the beginning, it did not. Okay. But then as it got longer into the, we had a big lockdown, the sales were great. But then as we're getting into it more, and then again, a lot of people were working from home, I really didn't see much of a dent, but I did see that my sales compared to last year were down by a large percent. Yeah. Now, can it be because of that? I don't know. I can't really say. But I have noticed that my sales have dropped. But again, now they're picking back up. So it really, I would have to say it did somewhat of an impact. But I still had some sales coming in with no problem. And a lot of my sales were big ticket items. So that's what's important, that you want to make sure you have a variety of things listed that have a variety of prices.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I realized when we were in the pandemic, the antique shops were going to start to be closing. And I realized that, oh crap, I have my stuff in these shops, And it was just like this, kind of state where okay, well, I'm basically paying for storage, but I have my stuff in this place, but I want to get it out and sell it online since I can't sell it in the shops.
Right.
And I remember when I was listing all the stuff during the pandemic, I would, sell it because a lot of people were shopping online because they couldn't leave their homes.
Right.
And that was actually when I started reselling on YouTube. When I found the YouTube reseller community was when the pandemic started. I was looking for more ways to resell. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I, met up with all you guys and the whole community, I was blown away at how many people is in this community and how much support there is.
Right. Now, I know from my antique booth, when I first started, I had just started right before the actually hit. And I have to say, our owner of our antique booth, our antique mall, actually worked with us and didn't even charge us. Now, we were able to post things like on Facebook if we want to show certain items or try to sell things through our antique booth on the Facebook side of it. And then what happened was if you purchased something, you did it over the phone with them. They would go to the booth and pull that item for that customer and then do a porch pickup. And that was very popular during the beginning of it. And
Mm-hmm.
so when we started going to a soft opening again, then they only charged me half the rent. So what I'm blessed with is because of the fact we didn't have to pay rent for those few months that we were closed. If we didn't even have a sale, that was okay. But once we started going back up, then it just started going gradually half of the rent. And then when it went full time, then of course it went back to regular rent. So again, that was something that was really great for us to have, the Facebook side of it, because a lot of people turned through selling on Facebook Marketplace to where they were able to do what's called porch pickups, where the money was there, they picked it up, and that was the end of the job, and it was over with. So
Yeah.
it still kept sales going in some way for people to think outside of the box, so to say,
Mm-hmm.
and be creative on how to make sales, but still be safe at the same time.
Yeah. Now, I'm not trying to diss Facebook Marketplace, but I have tried to sell on there before. So my story on this is that I had 4 bags of jewelry and they were craft bags, and I had them listed, I think at $35 or $40 for all 4. It was very cheap. And there was a lady who contacted me saying she wanted to buy all the bags. And I said, okay, well, where do you want to meet? And she said, well, let's meet at this mall. And I was like, okay, right in the parking lot of this store, all that stuff. And I get there, and this is crazy. I get there, and the lady's not there on the time. And so I wait probably 15 more minutes, not there. So then I message her. I get no messages back after a half an hour after the time we've supposed to meet. So there was I think a severe thunderstorm rolling into town, and I wanted to get home before the storm. So I said, okay, you've had a half an hour over your time. I'm just going to leave and block you off of my, selling marketplace store. And that was the moment when I knew, okay, I'm probably not going to do this again, Not to diss Facebook Marketplace. You can meet good people on there, and I've bought plenty of stuff on there from people, but sometimes it can be a little weird because you get those people who just say they want the item, but then they never show up.
Well, one of the things I want to say about that, and I have not had that experience because I haven't sold on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
but I have heard and watched a lot of YouTube content creators where you have that. But you got to remember, it's not Facebook, it's the people on Facebook.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to look at it as a learning lesson. Give yourself a little bit different of a time frame. I personally would not wait longer than 15 minutes. Now, if they're messaging me like this last weekend, I did do my first drop off local pickup on eBay, which I didn't know they had that until recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a little leery about it. Here I am, but I picked the local location in my town next to me. But I also made sure I was next to where they had a lot of cameras, which would be the police station on one side and Walgreens on the other. And there's signs all over saying that they're well camered, so letting people know there's cameras there.
Yeah.
So for me, that was a great experience because the guy did show up. He was running a little 5 minutes late. He did send me a message through eBay. All this happened through eBay, where if you have any type of transactions happening through eBay, you do not want to go outside of eBay because that way you're not protected if you do. So it's best that you do stay within the program of eBay platform and make sure that you communicate back and forth only through eBay platform. So he emailed me and said, look, I'm 5 minutes out. I got caught up in traffic, but I'm almost there. I'll be 5 minutes out. So there I knew I can wait another 5 minutes, no problem.
Yeah.
So the thing about it is you want to make sure if you're doing a meetup, it is in a public place where there's a lot of cameras if possible. but make sure it's in a comfortable, open area. That way others can see what's going on if something was to happen. Say that I have never seen it happen, but you just never know with
Yeah.
this day and age.
Yeah, it's funny. You never know the people that you'll meet. Um,
Exactly.
and sometimes it's good, and sometimes it can be bad. You never know.
You just never know, and then that's a chance you're taking.
Yeah.
Especially with meeting a stranger. So that's why I recommend always make sure that you pick up a spot that's got a lot of cameras and a lot of traffic.
Yeah. Going back to eBay, I was gonna ask you this. On Macari, they have a thing in the settings where you can set your store to have people that have negative feedback not buy from you. Do they have that on eBay?
Yes, they do. You can go into your settings, go to your preference, and there is a where you can take and actually put that buyer and block that buyer from any transactions on your eBay store by using their screen name or their eBay store name. You have to go by their name that they use on eBay.
Yeah.
So you have to go to your preferences, and you have to add it, and you have to make sure you add the exact way they have it. So what I do, I only have 2 blocked that I had to block, and that's due to the fact that the way that the transaction happened. And I did everything by the book. There's nothing you can do about it. And that's one thing about customer service. You never are going to be able to please everyone.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure you protect yourself if it's a bad experience. You can actually copy and paste that person's name from their store and link it into your preference area of blocking. That way you can block that particular buyer from ever having any problems from that person again.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's and I don't know how to really describe this, but I think it's a good thing to block people with negative feedback, because sometimes that's all they want to be is negative. And all you want is the people that are positive to come to your store and buy stuff.
Now you're talking about that. One of the things I always give a tip about is if you have a buyer, do a little bit of research on that buyer before. For example, say they're sending you an offer, and you have it listed for one price, but they want to give you a different offer, a little bit less. What I tend to do is go to that buyer's feedback. You will find that if somebody has nothing but negative feedback, you don't want to buy from that person. So I would decline that offer. If a person has maybe one negative but a lot of positive feedback, then of course I would be okay with it. But you do tend to have some people who have all this negative feedback. And if you don't go and check into their feedback on their eBay store, you will never know if that's going to be a problem or not. So what I do is I recommend anyone who's buying from someone, and you go to check that feedback. If it's got a lot of negatives, no, stay away.
Yeah.
Decline.
Yeah. Going off topic of reselling, something about you that's interesting. You have a cooking show on YouTube?
I sure do, Sha. It's called the Kajun Roots Cooking Show. I am from Louisiana. I basically show tips and tricks about cooking. And the cooking channel itself is not to make people think, oh, God, I'm cooking hot, spicy food. What it is that it's the way you can cook it and not necessarily be hot and spicy. It's more of techniques on the way we cook down south.
Yeah.
And I only started that channel because every time I was on someone's channel on a live show, and it happened to be maybe we cooking dinner, and I always say, well, I'm cooking right now, but I'm watching, showing you the love and support for your channel. And of course, the question next would be, what you cooking?
Yeah.
And so I would always say what I'm cooking, and it's like, well, you need to start a cooking show. And so that's how that was born.
Okay. What's your favorite thing to make?
Gumbo.
Gumbo. Nice.
In Louisiana, gumbo is considered just about anything you can put in a pot and make a great dish.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds really delicious, honestly. Now and for those people who don't know, I have met up with Johnny before, and he's a fun character. I really love his personality. What stuff did you buy? We went to a show in Iowa City. I think it was an antique show. And what were some of the things? What did you take from it? Like, what kind of things did you buy? How did you think the show was set up? All that stuff.
Well, one of the things I enjoyed about it was you had a variety of stuff there. There was different types of booths that had everything from glassware to old toys, a lot of vintage jewelry, action figures, people making homemade items like quilts and different things that you can make that you see in the olden days where everybody made things.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest thing is I was picking up a lot of things that were unique and that I've never seen before or that are hard to get. When I go shopping for anything antique wise, I want to look for something that's out of the ordinary or something that you would remember when you were a child. And so for me, I picked up a lot of old vintage toys that was still new sealed in its box, old model car, die-cast vehicles,
Oh, cool. Yeah.
jewelry, Fenton, you name it. If it had anything to do with, I call it vintage because that was something that I remember when I was a kid growing up in my grandmother's house or my great-grandmother's house.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things that I remember. When I see them, I'll pick them up if it's for a good price. I did walk away with 3 large IKEA bags full, but I guarantee you it was a lot of great deals. There was some people that had some things that were pretty high on price.
Yeah.
But again, you have to look for that gem in the rut. Like you just have to look. Don't be afraid to check out what somebody has. There are some people who have a lot of high prices. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But those are the things that are made for a collector. Whereas for me, I don't collect. If I'm buying it, it's because I know I can resell it.
Mm-hmm.
I am at the point in my life, at my age, I'm ready to be a minimalist. So if I can find it and flip it, I'm getting it. Now, if it's something that, okay, if I like it, it's going to stay there because I know it's not going to go for sale.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you're looking for things that you know that someone else is going to like, but you may have enjoyed it when you were a child, or remembering when you're collecting these things to resell, you're going to be bringing it to someone else's memories. But when they were younger and they wanted because they had missed it or they lost it, a tragic happened, maybe a weather happened that something out of Mother Nature, you can't replace it. But when you find it again, it can also come back and make some great more memories for someone else. So that's why I look for things that I know to give it another home. It's like recycling.
Yeah.
And that's why I look for things like that.
Yeah, that's why I like reselling, because it's a recycle tool. You're not throwing stuff away. You're just buying it to sell it to someone who can use it again. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point about garage sales. People have stuff out there because they don't need it anymore. They don't want it. So you buy it and then you sell it to somebody who can use it. If anyone hasn't checked out Johnny's channel, make sure you go do that. I think that video was on the 4th of July meetup that we had.
Yeah.
And my favorite part about that video was the older lady selling the Pokemon cards.
Yes.
That was my favorite thing. Her booth was amazing. I think it was her and her husband or son, something like that. Or I think her husband or son was selling coins. Was it?
It was just her.
Oh, it was just her.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess she shared a booth, I think, with a guy who had coins that was across from her, or something like that. But
the reason I showed that in the video, and one of the things I always do in my videos, is I show people don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
The only thing they can tell you, in my way I look at it, is always a positive way. Is the only thing she can tell you is yes. And usually 9 times out of 10, when someone asks you to make an offer, try to never be the first person. Let that person that's selling it come with the first offer.
Yes.
Because 9 times out of 10, you can stab yourself in the foot by not letting them go first.
Mm-hmm.
Now, don't get me wrong. There are some times that I have come out with a price thinking, okay, I've gone to an estate sale, for example, yard sale, estate sale, and it's just a family trying to get rid of stuff before they sell the house.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll say, okay, I'm going to make a pile. We'll talk about the price after. And the lady will say, okay, or the gentleman would say, okay, make me an offer. I have come out before and said, okay, my first thought that came to my mind, I said $30. My reaction was when she said, yes, I'll take it. I was floored because of the stuff I had. I filled up 5 IKEA bags, and those bags are big, of stuff that was still new, brand new, and sealed, and all that good stuff, and some antique stuff. And when she said yes, I could get the money off fast enough. And when I go to a garage sale, this lady one time had a whole inventory of LuLaRoe outfits, dresses, shirts, skirts, you name it, brand new with tags. And I went up to her and I said, she had it like for $5 a piece or 3 for 10. So I went up to her and the lady was looking through the items, and I went up to the lady in the garage and I asked her, I said, how much for all racks, everything? When she said $60, I couldn't get that money out of my pocket fast enough.
Oh my gosh.
And so you want to be able to, don't be afraid to talk and ask, because of the fact that you just never know what's going to be in their mind. They just want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So you just never know what number they're going to come out at you. Now remember, that's not necessarily going to be the firm number. They usually come out with a number first. You can always negotiate if you feel that you need to. But in this one particular case, I couldn't get the money out fast enough because I already knew I sold 3 items and I already made my money back and then some of anything I sold after that.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to do those bundle deals and not be afraid to ask and let them come up with a number first. Now, sometimes it does work in your favor, but it depends on what it is.
Yeah. And when I have my close friends that want to sell me something and they name a price and I think it's way too low, I will actually offer them a higher price because, well, first of all, you want to be loyal to them since like they're your best friend. And if they want to keep selling stuff to you, you want to make sure you're fair with them.
Well, not only that, you never know if they're going to have something else in the future that they want to get rid of, and they're going to call you back for it because, again, you were fair.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So before, we got about 10 minutes, but before we go, my last question that I'll ask all my guests, what advice do you have for people who want to get into reselling?
The biggest tip I tell anyone who asks me that question is when you're going to want to get into selling on any platform, if you do not have the capital to start, look around your home. See if there are things that you have not touched, have not opened, or have not used in at least 4 to 6 months. When I moved from Louisiana, and that was the thing I knew I was going to be doing is reselling. That was my new thing I was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
When I purged my house to pack, I was packing things that I did not touch, did not use, or was not open, packed it in boxes that said for eBay use inventory. Because when I got here and got started in Massachusetts, I already had my inventory. I didn't have to worry about going buying anything. So one of the recommendations is go through what you have. Start with that as little as you can. If you have a good bid, that's fine. But that'll be your first part of your inventory to start with. You want to start small because if something happens and you start to list and you start to see there's no sales, give it time because everything's going to sell immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But make sure you price it correctly. And as long as you're selling those items, take the money and put it back into your business. That way you will build up more capital within the first year or two to where you'll be able to buy more inventory when you're able to. And as long as you keep replenishing your capital, for me, I have been doing this for over 1.5 years and I don't pay myself yet because I want to keep that capital into my business. Because if the opportunity comes knocking and you have that capital, you will not have the hesitation of saying, okay, I'll buy this knowing what my profit's going to be in potential profit if I buy this large lot.
Yeah.
So make sure you start with something small. Don't overwhelm yourself because in the long run, you want to make sure you enjoy what you're doing. Don't make it an event that you're going to feel regretting later that you shouldn't have done it. This is something you want to enjoy. So when you do start, you want to be able to enjoy yourself, show you that you're going to be able to take the time to do what you want. You don't have to set the time 24/7 to do it so that way you'll have more time for yourself, but also make time for you and your family. No matter if it's a spouse, your significant other, whoever you may have in your life, make sure you spend that quality time to where you don't have to be part of the eBay or whatever platform you sell on 24/7 because you're going to get yourself burned out and you're going to be at the point where you want to quit. So I look at it this way. I want to enjoy what I'm doing, so I live each life to the fullest each day, but I want to make sure that I set my goals to the point where I can make them and improve on that goal and make a larger one in the long run. So that's my biggest tip. Start small. Then when you're growing into your business, you can make more profits. You'll have more capital to be able to rebuy more and keep it going in your business. Now, you can enjoy yourself. Take a vacation when you want to take a vacation.
Yeah.
If you don't want to feel like you want to work that day, you won't have to because you're working for yourself. and enjoy what you're doing. Don't make it a job. Make it something that you can have as an adventure.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's some really good advice. I'm not gonna lie. That was inspiring.
So thank you.
Yeah. Before we go, I know there's a decent amount of people here at Simpson College that like the bingo that they host here. And I know that you have bingo on your YouTube channel. Is that correct?
Yes, I actually started that almost 2.5 years ago. Actually, I've been doing YouTube for 2 years. It'll be 2 years in November. So I want to say over a year and a half, I've been doing bingo on Monday nights, 5 p.m. Eastern. It's free to play. Every game is a guaranteed winner. Basically, I have everybody pick 5 numbers, 1 through 75. I actually run a bingo board, and then I have prizes that I give away. And I have 20 total. Usually, I do 6 games a night on every Monday night. And then when the people that are watching the channel come in, they'll give us their numbers, and it's basically a night of free. No discussing eBay, not discussing reselling, just having a good time with all those in the community that want to come and have fun. We basically, every game is a winner.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can win multiple times. And that's all we do is we have fun. You win a spin a wheel of 20 bags. You just never know what's going to be in the bag because I have people who also send donations in to me. So we always have a variety of stuff. But the biggest thing that they come for is what I'm known for. Is moon pies.
Moon pies.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love the moon pies. Those things are good.
It's guaranteed to have at least 4 different flavors per game.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Johnny, I want to thank you for coming on to the show today.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for asking me to be your first guest.
Yeah, no problem. We will talk to you later.
All right, thank you. Have a great day.
Have a good day.
You too.
Bye. So, guys, that was Kajun Roots Reseller on YouTube. That was my guest for today. So, before I wrap up here, I want to say thank you guys for listening on 88.9 KSTM, The Storm. And this has been the Reseller Show with Brandon. If you want to get into reselling, I know this weekend there is the Log Cabin Days happening over at the Warren County Historical Society at the fairgrounds. They do have a garage sale on Saturday. I think that starts at 10 a.m., if I'm correct. And yeah, make sure you go check that out. I'm sure you'll find some great deals. There's a Goodwill here in town. And thank you guys so much for listening. It's been Brandon Zier with the Reseller Show. Come back again next Thursday and every Thursday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Thank you guys so much for listening and have a good day.